Hey folks, welcome back. So today I'm going to introduce you to my favorite RPG of all, and that is Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. Now we looked at Call of Cthulhu briefly before, but that was the 2nd edition box, the big fat classic special box that was released via Kickstarter, which had 20 some odd scenarios in it. It was fantastic value. 7th edition is the latest edition of the game. It's got a lot more to it, but it's still the basic same skeleton as 2nd edition, so it's not a huge leap to go from that to 7th, as I mentioned in that video. But I wanted to really get started talking about the 7th edition stuff because I think, the books are fantastic. They're some of my favorites in my collection, especially the supplements are peerless in my opinion. I mean, they give you a sense of place, they give you great adventures with them. I mean, you can't ask for more in an RPG supplement. And the prices are reasonable, and if you buy direct from KLZ, you get PDFs for everything right away, which is always fantastic, and they don't cost anything extra for the PDF. So if you're going to go get yourself a starter set, you will get everything that's in the box in PDF form as well, so you can play online, send the character sheets to your friends, the pre-gens, whatever you need to do, which is really convenient. But yeah, the starter set is really an amazing value. Now, this is not the latest version. They have released a 40th anniversary update, which I have yet to get, but I will get next time I have some money to spare. Basically, it just fixes some errata in the adventures and stuff. The contents are basically the same, and it upgrades the character sheets in look so that they have this kind of 40th anniversary special character sheet design, and it's got a new cover image and stuff, so that's about it. It's more cosmetic changes, plus a little bit of errata fixes, but to be honest, I haven't noticed any major errors in anything in here, and I've used the starter box to the full already, so I didn't see anything urgent that they need to fix errata-wise. It was all pretty well put together from the start. But the main point is, if you want to start the game, this is the clear place to begin, because it's a fantastic value. So, let's see, on the back, you've got 3 books included. You've got book 1, which is an introduction to the game and the themes of the game, and then you have a solo adventure, which is kind of like a choose-your-own adventure type thing, but you're using the basic rules as you kind of play through. Book 2, you've got starter rules, which include some basic rules for designing your own characters as well. Obviously, if you get the Investigator's Handbook, you've got a lot more choices, but you can build some basic characters using this set. Book 3, you've got 3 fantastic adventures, each one a little bit more complex than the last, so you can kind of build up to where you're ready to play proper, deep investigative horror mysteries with this game system. Then you've got your pre-gens, your blank investigator sheets, a set of role-playing dice, and a set of color-printed handouts. And you can see here they've got all the stuff kind of laid out for you. But what you'll notice initially when you get it is that, first of all, it's nice and thin. It's about an inch thick, despite all the content inside. And the reason for that is they've made it slightly longer. It's a little bit of an odd dimension. And that's so that they can fit all the kind of nicely sized sheets in here and stick the dice set up top, which saves them the hassle of making the box real thick just to fit some dice inside. So that's pretty clever. But if you have a bookshelf that doesn't have a little bit of headroom on it, just keep that in mind. It is a little bit taller than what you might expect. It's taller than the regular Call of Cthulhu books on my shelf. When you open it up, you get this lovely sheet that tells you right away what you can do. So you should start with book 1. You'll sort of get an introduction to what the game is about. Then you'll play through the solo adventure, Alone Against the Flames, and you'll be sort of guided through creating an investigator character, or you can use one of the ready-made ones, the pre-gens. Once you finish that, you can move on to book 2, where you have the introductory rule set. Again, it's limited compared to what you get in the gigantic books, which we'll cover in the next video. But you'll get all the bare bones that you need to run the adventures in book 3. So in book 3, you have 3 adventures. One's called Paper Chase, which is playable for 1 or 2 adventurers plus the keeper. So you can play that solo, which is really nice, which is 1 player, 1 keeper. And then the following adventures, basically you'll want to have more friends join in. They're designed for 2 or more players, but generally you want 3 to 5 for best results and for least chance of total character death. Yeah, so right away they lay out sort of a plan for you, how you should use the set. What I've done as well is I've put the character sheets up front here, so we can look at those quickly first, just so you get an idea of how they look in comparison to 2nd edition, which we saw before. So this is what a 7th edition character sheet looks like, at least in this version of the starter set. You can see we've got the statistics up top. They are now, rather than ranging from 1 to 18, they range from 1 to 100, as do your skills, right? So they're percentile dice based for your core statistics, your characteristics. That's a change from previous editions, the older editions. So for example, her strength is 50, whereas it might have been 10 in the old edition or something like that. Well, 9, I suppose. And then you have the basic details of your character, name, player if you want to fill that in, their occupation, age, sex, residence, and birthplace. Put a character portrait up in the corner as they've done. Then you've got a tracker for your hit points, as well as when you've taken a major wound. That's when you've taken half of your hit points or more in one shot, basically. And then you have your sanity tracker, which is very important. You have a starting sanity value. Hers is not that high, but it's decent enough to last a while. But every time you encounter something horrific in Cthulhu, of course, your sanity goes down. And if you take more than, I think, 5 points of sanity loss in one round of, one encounter, basically, you end up temporarily insane, and bad things can happen to you. You can also become indefinitely insane, where you need to go for treatment or roll up a new character, basically. The new addition as well to 7th is the luck attribute. So this is like sanity. It's kind of a resource that you have. You get to recover it every now and again, depending on how generous your GM is or what the adventure says. Basically, luck allows you to boost the results of rolls that are slightly above where you need them to be, for example. So let's say, you needed to roll under your skill, which is a 40, and you get a 50. If you spend 10 points of luck, that'll bring you down to 40, and you'll pass the test. So luck can do that for you. If you buy the Pulp Cthulhu rulebook as well, which we'll look at another time, there's more uses for luck in there, plus some extra cool powers for your investigator to make them more action hero-y than the frail and fragile nerds they are in the standard Cthulhu game. Then you've got your MPs over here, your magic points, and then your set of skills. So these are the skills for the 1920s. Obviously, if you're playing a game set in a different era, like even the 1930s or 1950s or modern era, some of the skills will change, and they go through that in the core rulebooks. So you'll have computer use skills for modern games, stuff like that. And you can fill in stuff here as well as you need if you're playing in different eras. But yeah, you've got most of the same stuff that you would have in the earlier editions. Things like charm, arts and crafts, disguise, dodge, drive auto, fast talk, different types of fighting, firearms, first aid, navigation, occult, survival, all that kind of stuff. You'll note that they are written down as a percentile, but then we also have two other values. So we have a 50% value written here, and below that, the 1/5 value. So if you roll below the 50% value, that's called a hard success. So you did really well at the check. If you roll below the 1/5 value, that's an extreme success. And these success levels become important, especially in opposed rolls. So if you're opposing somebody in a test, then you'll want to get a better level of success than what they achieved. Then below that, we've got her weapons. So when she's unarmed, she just does 1d3 damage plus her damage bonus, which is none, unfortunately, due to her low strength of just 50. But she also has a silver pen knife and a hockey stick. So she can beat people around with those. And also, she's got a dodge stat as well. Again, with a half value and a 1/5 value. The build as well. So if you're in a grappling situation, a character with a larger build, then you will have advantages in situations like that. Yeah, so that's one of our pre-gens. And you can see, so we've got, what's her name? Keiko Kane. Then we've got Jessie Williams, who's a history student. So she's got some different specialties. She's a bit better at fighting. She's got a little bit of firearms experience, just the default values, basically. Each character has their own kind of place to fit in the party. So she's quite good at spot hidden, reasonably good anyway. And she's very good at history, because she's a history student, and she's good at language checks, and pretty charming as well. Then we have Lois Russo, an engineering student. She's only 19. She starts with only 50 sanity, though, so watch out for that, and 45 luck. She's, again, quite good at fighting. Not so good at firearms. She's got intimidate and jump are pretty decent. It's interesting. Mechanics and repair, because she's an engineer, is quite high. So that's her kind of specialty. And she can track people pretty well as well. Then we have Nevada Jones. I love that. Not Indiana, Nevada. So he's kind of the tough guy. He's got more strength and dexterity, as you can see from his characteristics. He starts with just 50 sanity and 60 luck, but he's great at archaeology because he's Nevada Jones, right? He's pretty charming, pretty decent at fighting, got better firearm skills than the others so far. He's good at history due to his background as well. Language, he's got an 80, so he's fantastic with that. And yeah, he's also good with studying the occult and spotting the hidden, so he's a useful one to have in the party. Plus he has a gun, which is really helpful. By the way, our poor friend Jessie Williams is unarmed. She has no weapons. And Lois Russo only has a switchblade. So the first firearm we've seen so far is Mr. Jones. Then we have Wentworth Avebury, who's a languages professor. He's 58, so quite a difference in age. You can see intelligence is a strong stat. He's got a 70 in there. Pretty decent constitution and POW. POW is kind of like your spiritual power, and his education is really high. It's because he's a professor. His sanity starts at 60. as does his luck. And he is, well, he's not so good on the fighting stuff generally, but he's good with languages because that's his speciality, especially Latin and English, a bit of Greek, and a bit of Egyptian hieroglyphics. So not too bad on that front. He's also good at library use because he's a professor, so he knows how to research things. That's a very useful skill, as we know in Cthulhu. He's good at listening, spotting hidden things, not too bad, and persuade, he's pretty decent as well, and a bit of points in psychology, which is always useful. So those are your pre-gens. Pretty good selection to choose from, and players can pretty well have a look at those sheets and work out what the character's main specialty is and try and pick the role that works for them. If they don't like any of them, then you've got these blank sheets, of course, and you can do whatever you like with those. And actually I've got, it says they include 4, but I've got 5 here. So bonus, I guess. Now we'll move on to the actual books. So Alone Against the Flames, I think, is a genius idea. It's an excellent piece of work. It starts out with basically a reminder of what's in the set, an overview of the game, how it works, the fact that there's no real winners or losers in this game. It's more a cooperative experience. It's about playing a role, telling a story, and having fun while you do so. Of course, there is kind of an end state where everybody is dead, but, that can happen. Then there's a nice little example of play and some of the basics about the dice that are used. So basically the main die you're going to use is the percentage die, but then if you're doing damage or something, it explains how you will see notation for like D6s, D4s, and stuff like that. Things we're already familiar with, but for new players, it's really good to have an explanation of that. So now that you understand the basic premise, they want you to just jump in and do Alone Against the Flames. So you start at point 1, and you can see it says go to 263. So there's a lot of paragraphs in here. A lot of different ways to end up in this adventure. You can explore things. It refers you a lot to book 2. It's kind of introduce you to the rules. You get in some combats potentially. You do some investigation. You can fight bears, monsters. You can have success in your investigation, or you can be murdered in various different ways. So it's a really great introduction to the game. And because they've given you it's a decent length solo adventure. You can spend quite a lot of time just running through it and trying to get through successfully, or trying different approaches, trying different characters. It's really enjoyable, genuinely fun, and it's a great way to introduce yourself to the game. So I think this is really a smart move by Chaosium, and they have a history of doing these solo adventures. There's a few others out there that you can buy separately. Alone Against the Tides is one, Alone Against the Frost as well. And there's another one, I believe, coming out fairly soon that's been announced. So there's already at least, I think there's 3 on the market outside of this box set, and then there's another one coming. So if you can't have anybody around on a night, your game's night gets canceled or whatever, you can pick up a solo adventure, and the other ones are really long, much bigger than this one even. So they might have 600-700 paragraphs in them, loads possible decision points, so you can still have a lot of fun with the game system even if you're all by your lonesome, which I think is great. And because throughout that they're introducing you to the rules, which, notice how thin that pamphlet is. By the time you've gotten through it a few times, you're pretty familiar with how the game is supposed to work. And of course, we can see that the presentation is fantastic. We've got lots of freaky art, multi-tentacled Cthulhuoid beasts. There's a little more explanation here of the background of the game, some pointers to online resources. And what I love here is they've got a link to Seth Skorkowski's review of Call of Cthulhu, which is a long multi-part series where it talks about every aspect of the 7th edition. I can only just recommend that as a great resource. I'll put a link to the description in it as well, because I'm just going to give you a look at the products themselves, but he's the guy that you want to go to for explaining the rules in detail. And here you go. There's the basics of setting up a character, the purpose of the half and fifth characteristic values, working out your secondary characteristics. So these are characteristics that are kind of built off of other numbers that you set for your core characteristics. So here they're just doing a kind of array style allocation. You just allocate 40, 50, 50, 50, 60, 60, 70, and 80 amongst your 8 characteristics, as you would, and then those will give you different derived values for things like hit points and so on. And your sanity points begin at a level equal to your POW value. All human characters have a move rate of 8 to start with. Hit points you figure by adding your character's size and constitution. So it's all really easy stuff. Then we have some helpful tables. So, for example, Brian set his strength to 60 and his size to 70, totaling 130. When he makes a successful physical attack, he deals an extra 1d4 points of damage, and that's because of his damage bonus, which you can write in the corner of the character sheet so you never forget it. And all you do is add your strength and size, look on the table, And if you're really weak and small, you'll have a negative damage bonus. Most characters will have none, generally, if they're an average person. But if you're particularly bulky and beefy, then you can get plus 1d4 or even plus 1d6. And your build number will also increase as well. Then they tell you how to calculate your magic points, your luck, which is luck-based. You roll 3d6 and multiply the result by 5. And then circle that on the appropriate track on your character sheet. And then they tell you about occupations and skills. So there's only a few occupations here, and they show you that you get skills from your occupation, and then you can pick some additional skills as you like, and you have a certain number of points to allocate to those. And then they give you some nice skill descriptions that, tell you what to do when you want to apply a given skill to a different situation. There's some examples. One thing that's nice about Call of Cthulhu as well is the credit rating system, so you don't have to track money. Basically, if you want to buy something, you roll against your credit rating to see if you can afford it, rather than worrying about individual dollars or whatever. You can do it that way if you want, but you don't really need to, basically. So they give you a nice explanation of all the skills, what they do. Then they give you a guide to the character sheet, which we've already had a look at. And then they want you to think about your character. What's their backstory? Why are they interested in the occult? And why are they involved in investigating these kind of mysteries? And then add some final touches, like what are some key items that they like to carry, not necessarily weapons, but just things that they use habitually or that fit their career. Like, if they're a journalist, maybe they have a notepad and a pen, stuff like that. Some of those items might come in useful for emergency situations. You never know. Then we get into the game system. And look, we've got barely any pages left. It's really, picking up Call of Cthulhu is not difficult. So there are 4 levels of success. You can fail, you can get a regular success, hard success, or extreme success, as we already kind of discussed. Tell you how to do a skill roll. They tell you about opposed skill rolls. Basically, you try to beat the success level of your opponent. In the case of a draw, the side with the higher value wins. If both sides roll equally, then you both roll 1d100 again, with the lower result winning. You can also sometimes get bonus or penalty die. So this is where you get to roll an additional tens die, and then you can choose the better one for you. Now, this is a roll under system. So if you get a bonus die, which they mark out, you'll notice in the dice set, you have an extra d10, which is blue. So that's supposed to be used for bonus or penalty rolls. You can, of course, have additional bonus or penalties occasionally, I think, but it's pretty rare that happens. So it's not something to worry about too much. Basically, if you get a bonus die, you can roll 2 and you pick the lowest, which will usually be better for you. If you have a penalty die, you roll 2 tens die and pick the highest. So very, very easy. Luck rolls are also useful. If there's a situation where, let's say, you ask the keeper, well, I saw so-and-so got dragged out of their car and they were fighting and pushing along the way, but before I could get to them, they got shoved into a van and drove off. So is there a chance they dropped their keys to their car so I could look into it? And the keeper might say, well, give me a luck roll. And if you roll below your luck, then you'll find the keys. If not, maybe you won't. So sometimes you can do a luck roll like that for a single investigator, try to roll under your current luck value, or you could call for a group luck roll. In that case, the player with the lowest luck is the target that you need to meet. So that can be difficult for somebody who's been spending a lot of luck. Then we get into sanity. So when you encounter something that gives you potential sanity damage, it'll be listed as 2 numbers. So, for example, here, it could be 0/1d6 or 2/1d10. The number before the slash tells you how much sanity your character loses if the roll is equal to or under your current sanity when you roll against your sanity. So even if you win your sanity roll, you still might lose sanity if you're seeing something scary enough. The number or the die given on the right is how much you'll lose if you fail your sanity roll. If you lose 5 or more sanity points in a single sanity roll, then you've suffered a major emotional trauma. And this is where it gets really interesting. So you have to roll 1d100. If the result is equal to or less than your intelligence roll, in other words, you're smart enough to understand the horror of what you've seen, then you fully comprehend what you've seen and you go temporarily insane for 1d10 hours. So if you actually fail the intelligence roll, it's better, because then you're too stupid to realize exactly the horror of what you've seen, and you don't have to roll on the table. So this is your bouts of madness table, by the way. So when you have a bout of madness due to taking 5 or more points of damage and you win the intelligence roll, you might have amnesia, you might get a sudden psychosomatic blindness or something, you might lash out in a red mist of rage, you get paranoid, you might run away to find a person to comfort you, you'll flee in panic or faint, or you might develop a phobia or a mania. So there you go. And then there's some example phobias and manias. Some really fun lists of those in the main books as well. So once those 1d10 hours have passed, you've kind of recovered from the shock, and basically you'll be kind of back to, where you were before, but things that you've done while you were temporarily insane will still be kind of in effect if they affected the game world in some way. And the keeper may also, while you're temporarily insane, present you with hallucinations, just to make things a little bit more spicy. If you make a sanity roll, then you'll know it's a hallucination in that situation, but if you fail, you'll get even deeper into madness. So yeah, insanity loss can be tough. Then we have the basics of combat. So there's two main types of combat to worry about. One is melee combat and the other is firearms. Basically, in close combat, well, in combat in general, you go in dex order. You don't roll for initiative like you do in D&D or something. But there are some modifiers for certain things, like we'll see in the firearms rules. But when somebody is being attacked, they can choose how they can respond. They can either try to dodge, trying to get out of the way of the attack completely, or they can fight back by, attempting to avoid, block, or parry the attack and making one of their own. So basically, both attacker and defender will roll the D100. If you're fighting back, use the fighting skill. If you're dodging, use the dodge skill. And in either case, you need to achieve a higher level of success. Well, in the case of fighting back, you need to achieve a higher level of success than your attacker. If you're dodging, your attacker needs to achieve a higher level of success than you. Basically, the winning side avoids any damage and will inflict damage on their opponent. When fighting back, the best a person can achieve is regular damage, whereas the character who's doing the attack could achieve extreme damage. So that's if they get an extreme level of success, basically. And then they show you how that works. So if you have a blunt weapon, they get maximum damage plus maximum damage bonus. You don't roll the dice, you just get the maximum of everything. Impaling weapons deal maximum damage plus damage bonus plus an additional dice roll for the weapon's damage. So, for example, if you had a handgun that is considered an impaling weapon, and if you get an extreme success, you would get the maximum 10 initial damage, plus you'd roll the regular 1d10 handgun damage on top of that. So you could basically slaughter a normal human in one shot, pretty much. So that's a kind of headshot situation. Now, here we can see in the firearms rules, they work differently. Since you're not up close, you can't fight back. You can't dodge the bullet. Also, if you've readied your firearm before combat, like you've got your gun drawn and ready to go, you add 50 to your dex for the purpose of determining turn order. So you can then get your shot off right away, basically. If you're firing more than one shot from a handgun in a single round, then you apply one penalty die to each shot. Different handguns and shotguns and stuff will have different firing rates. So certain handguns might be able to fire multiple times, but each additional shot is less accurate. If you're at point blank range, which means within 1/5 of your dex roll in feet, then you get one bonus die on the skill roll. So basically, the skill roll that you need to beat is the relevant sort of handgun or firearm skill, basically. Now, the player can choose, who's being shot at, can choose to dive for cover, and they roll against their dodge skill. And in that case, the attacker's rolls to hit remain with one penalty die, but the character that dived for cover forfeits their next attack. If they already used their attack in this round, they forfeit in the next round. So diving for cover is a real desperate move. You really only want to use that if you're in dire danger of being shot to death. Maybe you're at close range, or you're fighting multiple people and you need to get the hell out of the way. And they have a short list of some key weapons and damage, which you'll encounter in the set. And then there are things that you can do, like fighting maneuvers. So basically, a maneuver is treated the same as a regular fighting attack using the fighting brawl skill. And you compare the build of the two characters. So if the character performing the maneuver has a smaller build than their opponent, they take a penalty die for each point of difference. So they could take up to 2 penalty dice if they're 2 sizes smaller. If the opponent exceeds the attacker's build by 3 or more points, any fighting maneuvers are ineffective. So basically, you can't do anything. And maneuvers can be things like disarming an opponent, knocking them down to the floor, or kind of grappling them. So you're holding them on the floor, and then the opponent must apply 1 penalty die to their actions until they break free. And they also tell you about what to do when you're outnumbered. Basically, once you've done either a fight back or a dodge in the current combat round, all subsequent melee attacks in the same round are made with 1 bonus die, but that doesn't happen with firearms. So just keep that in mind. If you're in close combat with multiple things, choose your dodging moment wisely, because follow-up attacks will have bonus die applied to them. Then they talk about wounds or healing. So if you get greater than or equal to half your full hit points in a single blow, you received a major wound. You'd make a con roll, or you fall unconscious right away. If you have a major wound and fall to 0 hit points, then you're dying, basically. And you must make a successful con roll at the end of each of the following round and every round thereafter, or die. And you can only be stabilized if somebody comes to you and does a successful first aid skill roll to kind of stabilize you. If you suffer points of damage greater than or equal to your maximum hit points in a single blow, you die instantly. There's nothing that can be done about it. If a character is reduced to 0 hit points but has not suffered a major wound, they won't die. Death is only possible if a major wound has been suffered. Characters without a major wound naturally heal only 1 hit point per day. This is not D&D, like you're a regular person, and it takes time to recover from a big fight. Characters with a major wound must make a healing roll, rolling equal to or under their con at the end of each week. If successful, they gain 1d3 hit points or 2d3 points for an extreme success. The major wound condition is removed if either an extreme success is rolled or current hit points are healed to half their value or greater. So it can take a number of weeks for a major wound to heal. Yeah, so you don't want to take a lot of damage in this game. Of course, there are other forms of damage that can come from being headbutted, acid, breathing a poisonous atmosphere, falling, and they give you different levels of damage depending on how severe these conditions are. So things like running through a room that's on fire would be severe damage. Getting hit by a car would be deadly, basically, 2d10 damage, all the way out to splat, where basically you're definitely going to die. So that's like being hit by a train. Not great. At the end of your session as well, any skills that you've used successfully during your session, you put a little check mark on them, which you can see as well on the character sheets. There's a check mark next to each skill, as you can see. So when you mark the check, then at the end of the session, you roll for skill improvement. So basically, do a standard skill roll for each skill that you use successfully. If you roll over the current value, meaning you failed your skill roll, then you get to add 1d10 points to the current value. And that's really clever as well, because basically if your skill's really high, like 90, you're pretty unlikely to roll over that. So it's a lot harder to improve skills as they get higher in value, because you need to fail the roll to be able to make the improvement. So that's pretty clever. But if you're lower on the scale, you fired a gun successfully when your skill is only 20, then you're very likely to fail that roll during skill improvement, and so you'll probably gain some points, which is pretty cool. So then they give you some hints on the next steps as well. Of course, there's the Keeper rulebook, which is the full game rules, packed with example and advice, a bestiary, and 2 starter scenarios. Then you have the Investigator Handbook aimed at players, which has in-depth player character creation rules, a range of investigator organizations, tips and advice for uncovering clues and dealing with mysteries, big equipment and weapon lists, and plus setting material to help you get into the Roaring Twenties atmosphere of the default setting. The Keeper Screen Pack, which is wonderful. It has a special and sturdy 3-panel Keeper screen, which has all key rules and tables on it. Resource booklet of key tables for quick reference. 2 exciting adventures with a cast of ready-to-play investigators, and a set of 3 poster-sized maps. So it's, as I said, the GM kit is way more than just a GM screen. And finally, they point you to Doors of Darkness, which I also have. You can vouch for. It's got a great collection of 5 introductory adventures. They say introductory, but they're still more complex than anything you'll find in the starter set. So I would recommend that you go through all 3 adventures in the starter set first, then go to Doors of Darkness after you picked up the full rules. Each one has a little bit more tracking, and the mystery is a little bit more complex than what you find in the starter set. Then we have a quick chart reference for half and fifth values if you don't want to bust a calculator out. And that's it. That's the rules. Really, basically all you need to get started. The core rules books, they just add more situations. You have things like chases, rules, more detailed things you can do in combat, bigger equipment lists, lots more investigator careers and stuff like that. Then finally, books-wise, we have book 3, which is the Paper Chase and Other Adventures. Paper Chase is a great introductory scenario, as I said, for 1 to 2 players. I've run this successfully with several players in a one-on-one basis, just kind of get them into the game's vibe. It gets them into the feel of kind of investigating things, asking around, talking to people, manipulating people, and trying to work out what's happening while avoiding necessarily a violent outcome. But there are still challenges to your sanity and potential struggles for your life if you don't necessarily handle things very artfully. At the end of each adventure, they give you, of course, for the GM, all the stats you need for anybody that's in the scenario. Scenario 2 is the Edge of Darkness, and this is now for 2 to 5 players plus Keeper, and it should take about 1 to 3 sessions to complete. This one, I don't want to spoil anything, but this is basically a big step up in difficulty and scariness from Paper Chase. There's a lot more chance of horrible rituals and things going terribly wrong. There's handouts and a more in-depth investigation. So this is proper Call of Cthulhu-ness. It's really good fun, and it's a very enjoyable way to spend, say, 8 to 10 hours, I would guess, for most groups. And there's quite a bit going on in this adventure. You can see they've got lovely cartography for everything, atmospheric artwork for key locations. I mean, it's really a great, resource for getting people into the game. And the lovely artwork and the maps really help the Keeper to do their job as well. And again, we have some handouts. So we're still on Edge of Darkness. You can see it's a pretty decent length adventure. Something gross is happening there, that's for sure. And then there are various different ways you can conclude the adventure, and there's a much bigger list of key characters and monsters as well. And then we get to Dead Man Stop. So this is a cool one. Again, it's set for a set up for a larger number of players, 2 to 5. I would recommend at least 3 plus keeper. And this is set in the streets of Harlem, which is great because they've also done a fantastic Harlem setting book, which is amazing. I just picked it up recently and I've really been thrilled with it. And they have a nice sidebar here about race and racism in 1920s America. So kind of giving you an idea of what black PCs will face in this kind of environment. And even in Harlem, racism was present and influenced every aspect of African American lives. So keep that in mind. And yeah, so there's loads of interesting background information as well to get you started more on the mythos side of things in this adventure. So the setting is really interesting. The background makes you think as well. You know, you've got all these different locations around Harlem to check out. Loads of interesting investigation to be done. The stakes are really high. You know, the outcomes are potentially pretty horrible. So it's a great adventure. Really, really great adventure. Again, we have all the stats you need at the end for the keeper. Both bad humans and bad creatures. And then we got some ads here in the back for the next steps, including the lovely collection Doors to Darkness with 5 more adventures in there. And there we have, you can see the handouts in the books themselves, but they give you color copies of each. So you can hand them out to your players as well, which is just really handy, you know, or you could have somebody read them out, you know, get the atmosphere feeling right. I'm not going to show you in great detail because they were already in the books, and you can find out for yourself. The dice themselves are great. They're nothing special except for the fact that you've got this differently colored bonus or penalty die, which is a nice touch. Yeah, I mean, there's a D20, which you'll rarely use. There's a D8. Then you've got 3 D10s with your bonus die or penalty die as well. A D4 and a D6. You'll occasionally need to roll more than one of some of these. So it's, you know, you probably want to have a couple of sets of your typical RPG dice, but make sure you get, you know, some differently colored bonus and penalty die. But, you know, for beginning players, really, this is all you need to kind of get your game rolling. No pun intended. So yeah, that's the starter set in brief. I think it's a really fantastic package. You know, the amount of play value inside is crazy, especially considering the compact size of it and the really generous costing. I mean, 23 quid is not a lot. $30 is not a lot. And basically, you know, a lot of starter sets don't include character creation rules, but this at least has reduced character creation rules. So you can make some players for yourself if you want, just with a cut down list of abilities and careers and stuff. So, I mean, as far as starter sets go, this was one of the early ones to come out, if not one of the first ones from a major RPG brand. And they really knocked it out of the park with this, and they continue to do so. So, yeah, if you want to get into 7th edition, this is the place to start. Believe me, you won't regret it. There's tons of fun to be had in this box. I mean, loads of sessions, at least probably, I don't know, a dozen sessions. And that's assuming you don't spend a bunch of time farting around with the solo scenario like I did as well, or doing different multiple runs of Paper Chase with individual players, just to get them used to the system before they get to multiplayer adventures. There's a ton of play value in the box. It's cheap. Everything's good quality. So yeah, strongly recommend it. So that's it for now. I just wanted to give you a look at starter set for my favorite game in the universe. My next video will look a bit more closely at the big old slipcase that includes all the ingredients, the Keeper Rulebook, the Investigator's Handbook, and the Keeper Screen and Game Master's Kit. So I look forward to that. In the meantime, I hope this was useful for you guys. Do go out there and try Call of Cthulhu. It's very easy to get a handle on, much easier than D&D and most of those other games in the fantasy genre, to be honest. And it's a ton of fun. You know, you feel that risk of being a normal person facing down horrific monsters from the depths of your nightmares, and it's a grand old time. So go out, pick it up, have fun. So until my next video, I hope you all are well. Take care of yourselves. Leave some comments down below, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. All right, take care, and bye-bye.